without actually having to do what you're supposed to.
So that's really cool. It's not like a heavy grind game then, I'm assuming.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. And it's starting here. I'm gonna leave it to you guys.
All right, awesome.
Can I just say right off the bat, it looks a lot like a PS1 RPG right off the bat.
Starting with an FMV, yeah, and an amazing soundtrack that we're unfortunately not able to hear at the moment, but I'm sure is being played on the Speed Gaming channel by Motoi Sakuraba. So we maybe kick it up by just saying, yeah, this is Valkyrie Profile. This is a action RPG for the PlayStation 1 that came out in late 1999 in Japan and then summer of 2000 in North America. It was made by Triace and I believe published by Enix. There was also a remake on the PlayStation Portable released in 2006. Which is definitely the most affordable way to play this game these days, just because the discs for the PlayStation version are a bit on the rare and pricey side, and unfortunately there isn't a digital re-release yet. But yeah, this game is based on Norse mythology, where you play a Valkyrie, who's a battle maiden whose goal is to recruit what are called Einherjar, which are the spirits of dead warriors that Valkyrie recruits in order to fight on behalf of the gods in Ragnarok, the final battle between good and evil, basically.
Yeah, a lot of games will use Norse mythology. They'll use Valkyries. But this goes all the way. Like, it's using the actual concept of what the Valkyries did in myth as the main gameplay and story mechanic.
Yeah, because like the Final Fantasy series and other similar RPGs like to have cameos by like god deities from Norse mythology, like Odin especially. But yeah, like Mythical just said, this game, the storyline comes directly from Norse mythology and the legend of the Valkyries and Ragnarok.
Unskippable intro is right. There is a lot of unskippable stuff at the start of the speedrun. It is really, really unfortunate. As you know,
yeah, if that was not the case, I'm sure this game would have a bigger speedrunning scene in the West, just because once we get past this 30-minute intro, there's just a lot of really cool platforming and RPG combat action, but kind of the price of admission to get to that point is 30 minutes of cutscenes and tutorials.
And in the PlayStation Portable version, does it also have this unskippable cutscene?
It does. The PlayStation Portable version has some. Actually, they changed some of the FMVs to be CGI drawn instead of hand drawn, and just some other tweaks because it was based on the Japanese PlayStation version instead of the North American one, which has some differences like in how menus work. But yeah, otherwise the game is the same. Yeah, so right here we're basically just getting introduced to the story here. The Valkyrie, who's also known as Lenneth, is being summoned to I believe Valhalla, which is Odin's palace, and being sent to Midgard, which is the mortal world, to recruit Einherjar for the upcoming Ragnarok battle.
I've actually got the script here if I wanted to go that route. That was Frey, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
They know each other.
Yeah, one of the Aesir, who are the gods. And their enemies are the Vanir, which are the fire giants, and those are your enemies, especially in the ending speedrun.
So there's Odin just chilling out in his massive throne. Freya beside him. You're going to be seeing her for a little bit. She's not going to be too happy with us.
Yeah, Yeah, she has some pretty powerful face portraits in this category.
But she'll act as the sort of guide tutorial character for a little bit.
Yeah, she's a playable character, although you won't be seeing her in this speed run because Moka isn't going to be fighting any non-required battles in the first dungeon. But if he actually did, then Freya would be kind of just an overpowered sensei type character that would be with him. And she's also recruitable in the Seraphic Gate, which is the kind of optional super dungeon that you can explore after actually finishing the game.
I got a question. How long is this game normally like a casual playthrough?
Casual playthrough, maybe like just if you do pretty much everything, I'd say it's kind of like 20 to 30 hours, kind of typical length for an RPG of this era.
So this is going to require some serious skill, like a lot more than just menu organizing.
Well, there's some cheese.
Oh.
yeah, we'll definitely be getting into that when he gets to the final dungeon. But
one of the things you have to do is to appease Freya, because she. Well, I guess I think it only triggers if you actually go somewhere. But the idea behind the game is you're recruiting warriors to send to Valhalla to fight the fire giants. And finding people and recruiting them and sending that takes time, and it turns out you don't need to do any of it for the speedrun, so it just skips forward. You can if in a casual playthrough, it's really not recommended. You'd want to use all the time you have to do as much as you can, but you can just skip forward in time. So he's going to skip through pretty much the whole game, and Freya will report on your progress throughout time, and
because once he's past this introduction and then first tutorial dungeon, the rest of the game is divided into 8 chapters, and each chapter has a number of Einherjar you can recruit and a number of dungeons you can explore to level up your Einherjar and then find better treasure and weapons. And but you do also have the option to just sleep through entire chapters, which is what he's going to be doing once he gains access to the world map.
So Freya's going to show us how to get her Valkyrie legs back. First up is finding out where someone is who's gonna die, basically.
Yeah, that's called spiritual concentration, which we're pretty much just about to get the tutorial on. When you're on the world map of Midgard, if you press the select button, then Valkyrie will basically kind of look for, I think the way the game explains it is kind of the crying out of a soul of a warrior that's about to die. And in a long, because this is the B, like we said a bit ago, this is the B ending, which is the fastest possible new game category. In a longer category, spiritual concentration is a source of RNG because, in this first instance here, you're always going to get the Einherjar recruitment for Arngrim and Jolanda, but after this point, depending on which chapter you're in, you'll randomly either get an Einherjar or unlock a dungeon every time you do spiritual concentration. You just got basically directed to go to the city of Artolia, I believe it's called.
That sounds right.
And as soon as he gets in there and starts the recruitment scene for Arngrim and Jolanda, we'll actually be getting into our first battle. And that's the earliest source of randomness in this run, because it's a battle between a couple human characters and a harpy. And the harpy can randomly block your attacks, and the more it does that, the longer the battle takes. So if you're really trying to optimize this run, if you get any blocks at all, or depending on what your comfort level is, you generally want to reset then.
Yeah, after 10 minutes of unskippable cutscene. Thankfully, no blocks here. Off to a great start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then so like in the battle screen, you can have up to 4 characters, and each one is mapped to a face button on the controller, and then pressing it will let them attack, or if they're a mage character, cast a spell that you pick. And the game has a pretty deep combo system where your attacks fill up a kind of a super attack meter at the bottom of the screen, and when it gets to 100, you can have a character do. I love the name for super attacks in this game. They're called Purify Weird Soul, or PWS as it abbreviates it. And like there's a lot of kind of depth to using a character's PWS to refill that meter back to 100, and then chain them together. And like the deeper into a chain you get, the more damage bonuses you get. But unfortunately, we're going to be seeing none of that in this category.
Yeah, it's you don't have any. It's weapons that determine what attacks and how many attacks each character gets, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, most characters only have one weapon type they can equip, but Valkyrie can do either swords or bows. But the type of weapon that you have on affects how many attacks you can make per turn. So like early in the game, your characters are only getting like 1 or 2 attacks, so it's actually pretty hard to build up the meter high enough to do a PWS move. But then when you get to the end game, I mean, every turn of a battle is taking like a minute or more, just because you're doing all these elaborate super attacks that have FMV animations.
Yeah, it's also really fun to just because basically each of the face buttons controls one of your characters, and every time you hit it, they'll attack and then go to the next attack in their combo, and you can actually change the order of the way their attacks come out, and sometimes they only hit in certain ways. They kind of have like hitboxes on them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because the enemies all have hitboxes, and like when you they can block your attacks sometimes, and having multiple characters hit them at the same time can do a guard break, which both breaks through their guard and also stuns them in some cases. And other attacks cause enemies to go flying up into the air, which in most cases is actually bad, just because if they're flying into the air and you have another character attack them, they might miss, because they'll swing under where the enemy's hitbox actually is.
So for the story that's happening, you saw Arngrim and his brother, who is a painter. You learn that Arngrim is a mercenary to sort of support his brother, who is just too frail to do much of anything but paint. And Arngrim, for defeating the Harpy and being the cool guy, the king rewards him with a statue. But he makes a statement. He wants to show that the king is a gutless coward, I believe is the words he uses. So he smashes the thing right in front of him, and the princess does not like that. Says 10,000 deaths are not enough for him. And then the next day, this mysterious person shows up to offer him a job.
Gee, I wonder who this could be. The disguise is even flimsier looking when you actually see your face portrait in a few minutes. But yeah, every Einherjar that you can get over the course of the game just has this recruitment story. That's one of the really kind of unique and well done parts of this game too. Is just the way it tells stories about people and how war and combat affects them, and none of them are anywhere near this long too. By the way, because it's pretty close to 20 minutes for the whole story of Arngrim and Jolanda, and then for most of the other characters you can get, it's under 5.
They do a really good job of making you care about these characters and their stories in such a short time. And then usually they die, because this game is about taking their souls and taking them up to Valhalla. So pretty much every story is a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. And the Sakuraba soundtrack really kind of helps build the mood for that too.
So that, yeah, the princess gets mad at the weird food she's never eaten before. And then the yelling makes her thirsty. So she goes for a drink of water, but it's actually sake. So she gets drunk immediately and falls over. And when they bring her back, they finally see through the disguise. It is the princess who's been trying to get back at Arngrim through a plan we never really know what she had in mind.
Yeah, the voice acting for the English version is pretty classic, early 2000s anime-inspired JRPG goodness too. I want to say that the voice cast did the Pokemon series at the time too in English.
This is Arngrim thinking back to, what daughter wouldn't be would hate to see their sire made a fool, something like that. Arngrim is Meowth. Wow.
Nice. Yeah, unfortunately, this
really
category
awesome.
we won't be seeing a lot of people's favorite character, Lizard.
Oh boy.
He's got my favorite voice and battle quotes in the English version.
Yeah, he's the anime character that like tips their glasses and the light shines off the glass, shing, and then they get like the smile and it's like, oh, he's up to something. Lizard is that personified as an entire person. But you're right. None of most characters.
Yeah, Mistina, who I think is Funk Doc's favorite character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we can't commentate this game too without giving a shout out to Josh the Funk Doc, who's the main Western Valkyrie profile speedrunner. I've actually been watching his runs of this game for a very long time. I think he submitted his first runs of both this category and A ending in like 2005 or 6 or something like that.
His first speedrun submission to SDA was the B category for this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was with a totally different route too, because he actually got another Einherjar and then actually used the combo system to fight the final boss. This is what we're going to be seeing here. While we're talking about history for the game too, I mean, Moka, who's doing the run right now, he's a very, very long and established runner of this game. I think he's got the records for all of the major categories of it. One thing of definite note too is that he's also been working together with Funk Doc and other Western runners for quite a while too. Like his 100% run, which is defined as all dungeons and artifacts, is actually on SDA. He worked with Mike Uyama to submit it in 2009 and translate his comments into English. And I know he worked with Funk Doc as far as doing like routing and planning too, all the way down to actually like timing out how much of a text speed difference there is between Japanese and English, which is really cool.
Yeah, Funk Doc's notes on SDA reference a couple of different Japanese runners who have he thanks for coming up with some improvements to the route.
Yeah, Sabo 10 is the other main one besides Moka.
So story update. Princess says she'd come back the next day, but she doesn't. Where could she be? At the same time, Arngrim gets an offer to escort a mysterious package to the nearby country of Vilnor, I think it is.
That sounds familiar.
But things clearly don't go well. Cavalry rides up behind them. And this is Arngrim realizing that that things are not going well. When I think about it now, I never should have agreed to take that package without knowing what was inside.
Do good, Arngrim.
When you guys practice this run, do you have a save that skips this intro, or do you watch this every time?
Well, I haven't actually run this game personally, but I do know that when FunkDoc ran this, he did most of his endgame practice on using save states or on emulator, or with just a save file on console to his memory card.
That's fair.
But for actual attempts, I mean, you unfortunately need to watch this intro for it to count as a full game run.
Yeah, and there is that initial battle too as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I want to say like Golden Sun and maybe other games too actually have a community category called No Intro, because intro is just a lot of cutscenes with no actual gameplay. But there is enough variation in this game that, I mean, even if there was interest in that, it wouldn't really work, because you've got the Harpy battle, and then like we're coming up on our second battle with the Ghoul Pounder, as it's called. And I want to say the Ghoul Pounder can't block, unlike the Harpy, but I could be wrong.
I think that's right.
And then Lombert, who's the next battle after that, has a very low chance to block. Like we probably won't see it today, but I remember FunkDoc having it happen to him maybe like once or twice ever in his runs.
That's got to be frustrating once you finally get a good Harpy.
Yeah, once you finally get a good run past the Harpy,
end of the tutorial. So this is where Arngrim finds out that Lombert was playing two hands. Basically, he wants the princess out of the country, in the hands of the enemy, basically. And so he figures if Arngrim gets her there, then great. But very likely she's going to be found. So he gives medicine to the Knight Captain to give to the princess. And that medicine turns her into that ghoul. So that's her now.
Yeah, because it's basically a poison called Ghoul Powder, which steals somebody's soul and makes them turn into a monster. And I do like how it's not just kind of a throwaway plot, something that comes up later. We won't be seeing it in this run, but like in the A ending run, it plays a role in the Tower of Lizard. And it's reused in Valkyrie Profile 2 as well.
Enter the Valkyrie, along with Freya. In addition to finding Einherjar to bring to Valhalla, the Valkyrie just also doesn't like undead things. Just, shouldn't be here on Midgard. So a lot of the locations are just kind of exterminating them.
Yeah, because I think undead is a catch-all for all types of monsters in this world. So we've got 3 characters instead of 2 for this battle. And like I said earlier, I don't think the Ghoul Pounder is capable of blocking, even though she's putting her arms up when you're attacking like that. So this battle is pretty much just spam attacks until you win.
Yeah, it doesn't do enough damage to be any threat. Arngrim's now an outlaw, basically, but he gets kind of consumed by rage, I think, over Lombert and his scheme.
Yeah, and basically tricking him into killing the princess, effectively.
So he's decided He doesn't care about anything other than getting back at this guy. So he's marching off. Go have some words with him. Here's the princess. Her soul, at least, is intact. So Valkyrie is able to extract it and recruit her, Jolanda, the first Einherjar.
And then Jolanda is your first mage type character that you can recruit. Like we mentioned a bit ago, each character has a different kind of character type that affects what kinds of weapons they can use. And then mages actually they use staves that just affect their magic. Like a really good one gives you access to great magic, which are a really powerful PWS attack. And you can also teach them, I think it's up to 8 different spells that you can just select out of a menu to do buffing and healing and stuff like that. And that will be playing a role in the route for this run.
Yeah, it's not necessary for survival, but it cuts an incredibly long fight in half, basically.
Mm-hmm. And then we're also about to get Arngrim too after the Lombert battle here too. And Arngrim's a kind of character too, in that he's the only one that you cannot actually send to Asgard. I forget the exact story reason, but he
says something about how he's not suited.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're just attacking Lombert and just hoping he doesn't block, which is he's pretty unlikely to do. But it can happen, and he's doing.
He's got the clean kill. Arngrim, you get him early on here, and you know you're never going to be sending him to Valhalla, so it becomes a good reason to, well, I don't know, depending on how keen you are on min-maxing, you might totally forget about him forever, and only use people that you want to power up, but most people, I think, end up keeping Arngrim around in their party for most of the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a really strong PWS attack that also gives you like 60 points on the PWS meter. So if you want to have all 4 characters use PWSs in a chain, having Arngrim go 3rd is pretty much always going to get you back up to 100 to have the 4th one do it too.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's having a really good intro here right now, is he not?
Yeah, pretty much flawless.
I mean, even though this is mostly cutscenes, yeah, the tutorial battles have little bits of RNG in them, and like the Harpy didn't block, and neither did Lombert, so he's on pace for a pretty good time so far.
So that was the climactic moment. Arngrim has the choice of facing, being an enemy of the kingdom.
I believe he has some kind of personal relationship with the guard captain that just tried to arrest him too.
Yeah, there's an implication of that.
And then he chooses to commit suicide rather than fight his friend.
Mm-hmm. He says, yeah, sure, Einherjar, sounds good. Let's do it.
Alright, and with that, we are done with the recruitment scenes. So now he's going to be doing spiritual concentration again, which this is always going to unlock the Aran Mountain ruins, which is the first dungeon. If he was actually playing more of the game, there'd be randomness as far as whether he'd be getting more Einherjar or getting dungeons, but this is always going to turn up the Aran Mountain ruins. And I think it's worth pointing out now, too, that he's playing this on easy difficulty, which is a little kind of different in this game compared to other RPGs that have it. Because the reason he's doing it, in short, is because that actually gives him a shorter version of this dungeon. I timed it out that it's about a minute faster, just because there's several rooms before the boss that just don't exist in easy. But I believe other than that, the difficulty doesn't matter for this category. Okay, so as soon as he gets control, he is going to be doing a bit of menuing here. Instead of a shop system, Valkyrie Profile has a kind of a materialization and transformation system for items. But in most of the game, you can only do it at save points. So what he did there was that he created 11 ruby maces, which is a basic type of wand weapon for mages, and he then transmuted those a couple of times into gems, which are items that cast a spell when you use them in battle. And he transmuted them several times in order to make holy gems, which cast the Sacred Javelin spell when you use them. And those are what he's going to be using to fight the first boss as optimally as possible. And then
freezing this enemy and jumping on its head and sliding off of it. I mean, for one, you have this ice pellet that can freeze enemies and create crystals to jump around on. But as well, this slide mechanic, it's fast, but there's like a wind up and a cooldown on it. But if you slide off a ledge, you will keep that speed for long enough to make it worthwhile. So there's a bit of quick speed tech going on.
Yeah, there is a lot of subtle optimization for the platforming, especially with just how short this B ending run is. So he's just trying to optimize his jumps and slides and ice crystal platforms as much as possible. Like, I don't know if we actually see it in this run, but if you shoot a ice crystal twice, it explodes into kind of a shower of ice crystals that's kind of a floating platform that you can use to get up higher. Alright, and then that's it for the first dungeon. Like I said a bit ago, because if he was playing on a difficulty other than easy, there'd be a bit more to it. But on easy, once he gets past that second save point, he goes straight to the Elder Vampire, who's the first boss. So this battle is meant to be a tutorial on the system, because Freya gives Valkyrie basically loans Valkyrie a sword that gives you 3 attacks per turn, and then you're meant to use that to do guard breaks on the dragon servants that are in front of the vampire, because they block your attacks unless you have multiple characters hit them at the same time. But he's going to be basically cheesing out this battle by using those holy gems to first one-shot the dragon serpents with the Sacred Javelin spell, and then use a couple more to kill the vampire.
Yeah, Holy Gem chosen particularly because of the short attack animation.
Yeah, I forget if the vampire is weak to the holy element, but yeah, when I do remember from Josh's runs that the holy gem does have the fastest animation of all the gems that would be useful for this battle. And then after each
artifacts.
Yeah, after you beat a boss in this game, you get in a dungeon, you gain artifacts, which are basically the property of the gods, and you can choose whether to keep them, which lowers your reputation, or send them to Odin. And it doesn't matter what he does for the purposes of the speedrun route, but he's keeping them just because if he sends them to Odin, there's an animation of the contents of the chest disappearing and floating away. So it just saves a few seconds if he keeps them in this case.
I think this is where Freya says you're pretty
on
much
your
good to
own.
go.
She's heading back to Asgard to kind of oversee the war between the gods and the fire giants. We'll be seeing her pretty soon, though, just because of actually skipping most of the rest of the game. So it looked like a pretty solid run through the Artolian Mountain ruins, just when we were platforming and the Elder Vampire battle.
I tell you what, the action picks up really quick.
Yeah, definitely. So now he basically used an option that lets him, because each time he does something on the overworld map, it costs periods, which are time periods, basically. And you do have an option to sleep through a set amount of periods. The main benefit of doing so is that you can heal and revive dead characters by sleeping, but But for the speed run, he's doing that to just get through the chapter without actually having to do anything else. And then there's 8 chapters, and in between each one, there's what's called the Sacred Phase, which is where Freya gives you updates on the war between the gods and the giants, along with giving you objectives for Einherjar recruitment in the next chapter, along with prizes based on the Einherjar you've sent up. Since Moka isn't actually doing that, Freya is starting to get a little annoyed with him, and we're eventually going to be seeing a pretty powerful variation on her face portrait once he's kind of bottomed out Valkyrie's reputation. Not actually transferring Einherjar. If you don't know what you're doing, that does put you at risk of getting the bad ending, because if you have too low of a reputation, when you enter a dungeon or town, you'll first get a cutscene where Freya kind of chews you out for not doing your job, and then if you do it again, Freya will attack you and kill you basically, and then you get the C ending, which is the bad ending.
Yeah, the bar graph you guys are seeing is the various forces. Blue is good, red is bad, yellow is a weird neutral force.
Like neutral forces or something.
Yeah, so you're going to be seeing blue go down and red go up every single time.
Yeah. So once he's past chapter 4, he needs to switch discs, because like a lot of PlayStation RPGs, because of the FMVs and voice acting and stuff, they weren't able to fit the whole game under one CD-ROM. And then there's Freya getting upset too, and then immediately going back to normal. But yeah, after he changes discs and starts chapter 5, then we do have a bit of meaningful gameplay.
Oh,
that's where he's going to be doing his one and only Einherjar transfer.
This is a serious speed strat right here. How quick he can switch discs.
Yeah, I started my first speedruns were the PlayStation Final Fantasy games, and there's definite tech to optimizing changing a disc. Like I would, while the change disc thing was loading, I would get another one out of the tray and then quickly use 2 hands to open the tray, put in the disc, and switch. But, okay, so anyway, what he's doing now is he's materializing a bunch of items that he's using both now in order to increase Jolanda's stats and give her a better hero value for sending to Asgard, and also some stuff that he's going to be using in the final dungeon, Jotunheim Palace.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the characters, the stats he's increasing to make them, better warriors. It's not like increasing her intelligence or strength or anything. They're actually stats that are personality traits, like spoiled or attentive, and by decreasing the spoiled stat and increasing the good stats, their value as a person and also as a warrior goes up.
Yeah, and then the reason first of all, Jolanda is the only Einherjar that he can transfer, because you can't transfer Valkyrie, and neither can you transfer Arngrim. And doing it specifically at chapter 5 with the right hero value will make Odin give Valkyrie the guard reinforce spell, which is that's not useful in and of itself, but by transmuting that, he'll get the spell reinforce spell, which is huge for the strategies for the final boss. Like, I know one of Funkdoc's previous routes actually had to farm for it in Jotunheim Palace, which was an annoying source of RNG. But the newer route just transfers Jolanda to get it guaranteed. And so it's both faster and consistent. So once he's done that work in Chapter 5, he's just going to be snoozing through the whole rest of the game until the end of Chapter 8. And then if you get to the end of Chapter 8 and have not met the requirements for the A ending, which is where you kind of your Valkyrie is kind of breaking from her duties and learning more about herself and her previous life as a mortal, basically, then you get called back to Asgard to go fight the final battle against the Vanir.
Yeah, the A ending is actually super interesting. Completely restructures, recontextualizes the story, and you're probably never gonna see it unless you look up a guide. So
yeah, because there's a lot of kind of very specific things you have to do during specific chapters, and if you're playing this game blind, unfortunately, the game doesn't really kind of give you a whole lot of help as far as figuring that out. So I mean, I highly recommend this game, and I also tell people don't feel bad whatsoever about using it, even just using like a spoiler-free guide that tells you what the requirements for the A ending is. You'll still have a really fun time playing through this game, and if you don't actually do the A ending, you're kind of missing half of the experience too, as far as the storyline and because the A ending is a totally different final dungeon and boss too.
Mm-hmm.
And ending. So we get all these cameos by different gods, like one of whom is actually a pretty nasty boss in Valkyrie Profile 2. And then we enter Jotunheim Palace, which it's much longer actually than Asgard Hill, which is the A ending final dungeon. There's a lot of kind of fairly tight platforming, but yeah, he's doing some menuing here too, where he's basically just making a bunch of weapons. He's making 2 different kinds of weapons that he's going to be transmuting into poison crystals, along with some accessories to give his characters for defense. And then also he's making a specific weapon for Valkyrie called the Scarlet Forge, which is the key to a somewhat recently discovered glitch that actually helps with the final boss a lot. And I guess the other really important item to point out too is the Angel Curio, which is a accessory that he's put on all of his characters that revives them if they run out of HP. But each time it does so, I believe there's a 30% chance that it will break. So he needs that basically to guarantee that none of his characters will die during the first turn of the final battle.
Yeah, I think if he were to get really, really unlucky, he could possibly get the same character dead twice and have the thing break the first time.
Because I did watch through Moka's practice run using his marathon route, and I did notice he made some Union Plumes too, which are the revival item in this game. So I would assume he did so again here, and the plan is just to have those as a backup in case things go really, really badly at the start of the Surt battle. Surt is the leader of the fire giants and the game's final boss for the B ending. So yeah, once he just gets equipped, then yeah, the rest of Jotunheim Palace is platforming. I believe even some of the more straightforward-looking sections have some difficulty just because of input lag, which I believe isn't consistent from playthrough to playthroughs because of like little minor variations on how the game loads stuff. So for these rooms right here, he's doing some pretty interesting skips to avoid what are intended to be mandatory battles against Vanir's soldiers. Getting over them, I forget which direction it is, because I know Funkdoc used to have to fight them either going in to get that flame key item or to come back, but now it's possible to skip them in both directions. And I think in a couple more rooms he's coming up on the one and only unavoidable encounter before he gets to Surt, which is with a Mithril Golem. And this is actually where his marathon route differs a little bit from his record. Because in his record he just runs away from this enemy, which isn't guaranteed to work, and if he fails even once, it's actually slower than what he's doing here, which is using an item he made called a Tome of Alchemy, which just turns the enemies into experience crystals. Because if you actually fight battles and use the combo system, you can randomly knock experience crystals out of enemies, which just give you a multiplier on your experience gain based on how many you get. Looks like you missed a jump there.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
He had to wait for those ice platforms to respawn.
Oh, okay. That's what, yeah.
So anyway, the reason he did that Tome of Alchemy strat is twofold. It was both for safety, just because if he failed to run away enough times because of how low-leveled his characters are, he could theoretically die. And it's also for safety for the Cert battle, too, because you say gain 19 level ups off of that, so that just gives him a lot more HP for getting through the start of this battle.
Yeah, you can actually take a hit.
So he's at the final boss of the B ending now, and he's going to be using a pretty unconventional strategy for this if you've never seen speedrun before. Just kind of abusing just how a number of items and mechanics work together, along with a glitch. So as he searched it is, I think it's called Flare Star attack, and then the Vanir Soldier's attack, and then he basically just needs to get through those attacks without anybody dying or getting stunned. And then after that, he uses some items that he made called Lucid Potions, which gives him the invisibility status, and then if the character is invisible, they cannot be attacked by enemies. But if the invisible character attacks with their weapon or magic that's mapped to a face button, then they lose the status. So he gets his whole character invisible, and then has Jolanda cast Spell Reinforce, which I think it doubles, or at least some really large bonus to magic damage, which fortunately actually applies to items that cast spells in addition to spells themselves. So he uses that to boost the amount of damage that his poison crystals are doing. And it's poison crystals just because of it's the fastest animation of all of the various types of crystals that are effective against Cert. And then I can't remember offhand how many turns, but every certain number of turns during this battle, Cert will use Ifrit Caress, which is one of the great magic spells. Most of the major bosses in the game have a great magic spell they use periodically, but because of a glitch where Moka equipped the Scarlet Forge sword on Valkyrie, which is a fire weapon that is intended to give the user fire absorption, but if the user is in the back row, then the fire absorption actually applies to the entire party instead of just that character. So by putting Valkyrie in the back row, his whole party absorbs fire, and he can actually now there's basically nothing that Cert can do to actually hurt him. And he can't use his other attacks because of Lucid Potions. Yep, so it's pretty much the rest of the fight now. He's just going to be spamming these poison crystals. One thing that also went during his menuing at the start of the palace was that he took off Arngrim's weapon. And that's because there's a stat that weapons have that kind of affects how random the damage rolls are, like how wide that range is. And Arngrim's starting sword has kind of a bad randomness stat, so by taking it off, it actually makes poison crystals thrown by Arngrim do consistent damage.
So the only way he doesn't just win in this situation is forgetting to use Lucid Potions when they run out.
Yeah, or forgetting to make them in the first place.
Well, yeah. Looks like he's remembered here.
Mm-hmm.
And that or like accidentally attacking or something.
Yeah, because if you do press one of the face buttons to have the character attack, that will cause them to instantly lose their invisibility status. Been playing video games for how long, and I still get those words mixed up sometimes.
So you can see Valkyrie not doing, a perfect 11,000 or 13,000 damage because she has to be wearing the Scarlet Forge for the fire absorption.
Yeah, but I think the Scarlet Forge's randomness stat is good enough that it's not really going to affect how many hits it takes to win. I'm a particular fan of the music for this fight, too. Disappointed I can't hear it at the moment.
I like how the damage values just get totally off the charts at the end of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, unlike a lot of other games, this one doesn't cap you at 4 digits.
I think there are certain weapons that are super duper duper strong against specific enemy types.
Yeah, these killer, like dragon killers or the dragon slayers, I forget what they're exactly called. You get fairly early on, and those can one-shot any kind of dragon type enemy.
Yeah, it just deals like 50,000 damage or something. Very satisfying.
I think there's a similar one that does the same thing to ice elemental weapons. Like I know the 100% run uses that to one-shot Fenrir, who's one of the final bosses.
Nice plug pointing out 300,000 hit points. That's about 300 casts of this crystal. Less than that, I guess, but it's a lot of crystals. Oh,
It's close to yeah. Okay, there we go. That's I guess that.
GG.
Yeah, it looks like they stopped timing there. So yeah, I know Moka's record uses JRTA timing, which goes until the end of the credits. But it looks like for this marathon, he did Western timing too, and just ended after he defeated Cert.
He
Hey,
just shut the console off too. Just
Yeah.
done.
he just
I
was
wonder if
done.
he's-
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, nope, I'm not having any of this. Yeah, the B ending is actually pretty unfulfilled. Get this kind of scrolly text congratulating you on a job well done, and then if you watch, I mean, after the whole credits, there is some more text that really kind of hints that there's more to this story than meets the eye, which is kind of the subtle way of saying figure out how to get the A ending instead.
That is. I mean, he was just done with that though. He's like, yeah, I don't want to watch that. That was great though. That was.
Yeah, that's
a
Valkyrie
very-
profile B ending. It's unfortunate that over half of this run is cutscenes, just given how cool the routing and execution is. For the rest of the game.
I thought it was a very interesting run. I mean, it's definitely a different type of RPG in the way you just. I mean, you don't see a 55-minute speedrun of an RPG, even with half of it being a cutscene, too often.
A run
Yeah.
that short of an RPG that also
Yeah.
doesn't do any like major glitches or sequence breaks too. It's just working within the game mechanics to play as little of it as possible, and then get to the final dungeon without getting the bad ending along the way.
Yeah, that was very cool. Hey, well, thank you, Mythical and Puexel. I
My pleasure.
greatly appreciate showing us Valkyrie profile there.
Hey, what do we got coming up next?
Coming up next, guys, we actually have Final Fight Double Impact on the Xbox. The default difficulty, I believe we're playing with Hager, who is a government official at this point, I think, in time. I'm pretty sure that's the lore. I'm pretty excited to get the lore on Final Fight here coming up. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, we got that coming up, guys. And yeah, I believe we're switching restreamers real quick as well. Yeah, we're gonna make a real quick switch, so we might be down for about 2-3 seconds. So
Okay, well, I will go ahead and hop off then, and just thanks to Feasel and Sinister One for having me on for commentary.
yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks again, guys. That's Mythical 9 and Puexel. Definitely check them out, guys.